All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole White. Thanks for being on my channel. I have my very dear friend here, Veronica Lopez. She is going to tell you all about Oracle cards and even do an Oracle card pull for you. So without further ado, we'll have more story, more history later. Let's get into the good stuff. Veronica, hello and welcome. Thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's so good to see you. We used to live in the same city, and now she's far away.
Yes, I live in the Cream City, or I don't know. I live in Milwaukee, so like it's Cream City, Beer City, like City of Cheese Curds, maybe. I don't know. I love it though. What I love about coming back to Milwaukee and Wisconsin is the fish fries.
Ooh.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Friday fish fries. Oh my God, so good.
What is fish fries? Is that like actually fried fish or fried potatoes in fish oil? Okay, fried fish.
Fried fish?
Okay.
Fried fish. I lived in northern Wisconsin, and they had every Friday was a fish fry, and you know, whatever they would have, usually a white fish, but oh my gosh, you talk about not good for the waist, but it was so tasty.
Okay. Awesome. Tell us about Oracle cards, Veronica, and like how do they differ what's the difference between Oracle and Tarot cards?
Very good question. So Tarot cards are more well known, right? So you have your major arcana, which is all of they have so you start with the Fool, which is 0, and then you go up, I think it's 21 or 22. It's funny, I don't really remember because it's not something that I'm familiar with. Like Tarot is not my go-to. I'm an Oracle person because Tarot is like, even if you have a different Tarot deck, normally they all mean the same thing. And so they all have meanings. And then there's major arcana, there's minor arcana. Minor arcana can also be called the pip cards. So they're kind of like your normal playing deck because it used to be a game. So then you have 1 through like ace through 10, and then your page, knight, queen, and king. And so you have 4 of those, usually pentacles, wands, water, and swords. So those are your playing decks. And then the major arcana are people usually. So like the Fool, the Empress, Devil, Tower, things like that. They're almost like major events. And so they're the big things that can happen, or personalities. And so the Oracle card is basically like whatever it means to the person who's created the deck. And it can look like anything. So, one of the decks that I work with is the Wisdom of the Oracle deck, which is by Colette Baron Reed. This is the one that I read from because it's so clear. Oops, sit down. There we go. And backwards because we're on Zoom.
Actually, but it's so weird on Zoom.
It's gonna look right for you?
It looks backwards to you, but it's coming out straight for me. Yeah. So hopefully
awesome.
It's yay!
Perfect. Woo! So I love this deck because it's so clear. Like it's some of the decks are like not for you, or the card like peace. They're very clear meanings for someone who doesn't know anything about Oracle. And so you can pick up this deck and be like, well, I don't know anything. What is Oracle versus Tarot decks? I don't know. And again, Oracle is everything that's not Tarot. So it's very broad. Yeah. It could be a prosperity deck, or it could be a New Age deck, or there's one that's like the universal cards deck. So it's like, just like, what is the universe telling you? And so there are so many different ways of putting out an Oracle deck that you can find something that fits your needs. In fact, I was talking to somebody, now this is a tarot deck, but it could be an Oracle deck too, but they were talking about the Golden Girls Tarot, right? So if you know and love Golden Girls.
Like the TV show? For real?
The TV show, yes.
Oh
So it's the same thing,
okay.
Like It's that broad. I have I don't know where it is, unfortunately, at the moment, but I have a Game of Thrones deck.
Okay.
So
Okay. All right,
you
but
can
today we're gonna go with is it Colette?
yes, Colette Baron Reed, Wisdom of the Oracle. And so that's what we're going to be pulling from today because this is the deck that for me is the easiest to interpreting, easiest for people to see and know. So
Right.
it makes sense to new people, to beginners. It's the one that I teach with. If we do like a little class and
And
people are like, what do
speaking
we
of
get?
class,
Let's do
uh,
this one.
Veronica and I, when she used to live out here, we did a class, oracle card readings and art. And we are putting together another class where Veronica will pull a card for you, and then I'll walk you through an art process. It was so great. It was one of my favorite classes that we had at the studio. I used to have a studio, there's an art center. Now everything's online, and we're just going to do our best to bring it online, and it'll be so great. So more information will be on that below, and so we're going to have a class. We're going to announce that soon, but great. So Veronica, what are we going to do for this poll? What is the focus?
The focus today, I think, is kind of on family. Like I'm feeling the family vibe.
Okay.
You know, it's the beginning of December, beginning just like we're into the holiday season because we've already had Thanksgiving, but we're not quite into Christmas. But you know, everybody's thinking about family and love and like what can we do, what can't we do, depending on where you are. Are you leaving? Are you not leaving? And so, you know, this is just kind of a message of how do we deal with that?
Hmm.
You know, how do we deal with making those decisions, and what does that look like? So, you know, I've been kind of shuffling this whole entire time. You know, I usually do a 3-card pull because for me 3 cards, 3 is I'm a triplet. Let's just put that out there.
We will
I
talk
am a
more
triplet,
about
so
that
3
at
is very
another
important to
time.
me.
And you're the baby of the triplet.
Yes. I am. So 3 is a very powerful number in general, and it's a very powerful number for me. So I usually pull 3 cards regardless of what I'm doing. In fact, I was just doing your card reading not too long ago, and actually like right before this call, and I was like, I gotta do the 3-card pull. Well, guess what happened? One just popped out after the third one. So, you know, it was like, we need to know about this one. So if that does happen, that's the way shuffling goes. But
And
I usually like to do that.
we are low tech right now. On the next few calls, we will figure out a way to have a camera focused on the deck as she's shuffling and shows the cards. But for this one, she'll pop them up. So we'll deal with the mystery of not knowing until she actually
Yes. Because
reveals.
right now you're just seeing me shuffle, and that's not really, who needs to see that? You can hear it, right? So I do. It's funny. Like when you deal with cards, you kind of get in your own system. So I have a system, a way that I deal my decks, and it's dividing up into 3, and then you know shuffling, dividing into 3, shuffling, and then pulling my cards. And so now it's card pulling time, and I'm going to put them down, and then I'll show them to you, just so that you know what they are. So nothing popped out this time. So it's just it's a 3-card pull. And usually what I say when I'm shuffling cards is, what do I need to know in a way that I can understand that is for the highest good of all. And so that's kind of my mantra when I'm shuffling and when I'm working with other people. Now, if they have something in mind, I'll replace that first part with, you know, generalities with something specific. But what do I need to know in a way that I can understand, or a way that they can understand? You know, because it's about the client. That's the highest, for the highest good of all. And so when you look at beginning of December, in the throes of the holiday season, it's interesting what I pulled. So I have Yang, and I hope this will work. Co-create and not for you. So these are the 3 cards that I pulled, and I'll talk about them individually and I'll talk about them together. but I just want to show them to you first. So
Yeah.
when I see, yeah.
And before you get started, you know how sometimes when you do a pull, some are right side up and some are upside down? Does that change the way that you read them or interpret them, or do you put them all right side up?
So for this deck, I choose to use them all right side up. I have not incorporated the reverse for my deck, my card pulling, because there's such a large amount of cards in here that, in my opinion, you don't really need to do the reversal. Um, you get enough of a variety to do it. Now, it does come with a book, as most do. This is actually a very thick book. She has multiple ways of reading this. So you can read it as is. You can shuffle them in reverse and read the reverse one of them. You can read it for a relationship as well. And I think prosperity, I think, is the other one. Yeah. So prosperity. So if you're looking specifically for prosperity ones, you could do that. I read them upright, because again, there's enough variety that you can do that. Now, other decks I specifically put in reverse, and maybe I don't know those as well, so I look at the book and I read them that way. I have a shaman deck that I do that with, because for me it's important to get that reversal. It's what they call medicine, right? So it's the essence or the medicine. And for me, I'm like, well, I need to know what the medicine is. But for this one, I read them upright because I haven't I haven't learned those reverse ones yet. And I'm more comfortable with the upright, but you can read them in reverse and you can use the book however you want. So the first one, yin, sorry, yang, let me get my hand out of the way, is action. So this is a power card. So this is all about action and what do you need to do. And so, my first thought here is, if you're looking at family, this is a decision card. So are you going to do something? Like, are you going to have an action to your holiday season, or is it not? And this is not a bad card. This is a hey, I need to make a decision card, and it's a powerful card, right? So it's a powerful card if you decide to stay at home or if you decide to go visit family. It's a powerful card either way. But it is more of an action card and not of a being card. So it's not like I'm just gonna like sit back and see what happens. It's no, I have to make a decision. And I think a lot of people are in that situation right now with everything that's going on. It's like, you can't just sit back and say, I'm just going to see what happens. There is so much going on right now that you really do need to make a decision. Whatever that decision is for you, and maybe your family agrees with it, maybe some of your family doesn't agree with it, but the decision is your decision and you need to make it. And so this is saying, make that decision based on what you think. And if you need to put context and reason to it, that's fine. Just make it for you. The next one is co-create. And co-create is one of my favorite cards, because it's co-creation with spirit. So it's whatever you believe in. Are you Christian? Do you believe, so you would believe in God and Jesus. And so that's your creation with God and Jesus. If you're Buddhist, it's Muhammad. I could have that wrong. But, like for me, it's spiritual. So it's creation with spirit. And what is available for me through spirit, through my spiritual connections. So whatever your spiritual connections are, that is your co-creation, not necessarily with a person, but with your spiritual beliefs and your God or spirit or whoever you make those connections with. And if you're atheist, then it's maybe it's you and somebody else. So that's just it's for me, it's all about looking at who or what you're making that creation with. So mostly spiritual world, but again, if you are atheist, then maybe it's something else. But it's about looking at your strengths and knowing that that somebody has your back, and not somebody necessarily in the physical world, but you always are looked after, and that you can co-create even if you think that you don't have anybody. Now, interestingly, The next card is not for you. So when I see this, I think relationship card, and I think whoever you're going after, leave them alone. Like, don't do it. So in this case, I don't necessarily think it's a relationship card, but it's just a reminder that maybe just because things are going the way that they are doesn't mean that you should be doing what you think you should, what you think you want to do, because you think you can get away with it. And so that for me is kind of what's coming up with this, is like, you think you can get away with something, but maybe you're not going to. And so if you know that it's not good for you, don't do it. Don't do it at all.
Mm.
And then, so when you look at all of these three together, so the other thing is, like, I look at the cards separately and then look at them all together. You have yang, which is action, co-create, which is co-create with spirit, and then not for you, which is like, you really need to let that go. It's been a rough year. For me, this not for you might just be like, maybe you just need to let the year go. Let it go. It's over. It's done with. It's in the past. We can't change it. It happened. It's not for you. Let it go. But look to the future, right? So this is, to me, this is future. This is present, right? So present, what is your action? What are you doing? What is your decision? Because in the future, you can co-create, and you definitely need to let the past go.
Mm. So
And
that
so
was
that's,
let it go was in the past.
yeah. So that's what's coming up to me right now, right? So people, depending on who this is talking to, some of this could happen now and happen differently. Like the not for you could be like immediately right now. But if you're looking at like December and what's going on in overall archingness, this to me just seems like we just need to let 2020 go.
Mm.
And so that's kind of what I see with that card spread.
Okay. Oh, I love it. I love it. Ooh, good, good. Yeah.
I know sometimes I get on a little tangent there and I'm like, just keep on going. And I'm like, wait a minute, I gotta pull back.
What do you think it is that you need to let go from this year?
Oh, probably a lot of just the family stuff that's been going on. I mean, we've had a lot of transition. So trying to do transition in your family group during a time when you're not supposed to be together and you don't live in the same state, it is a little difficult. But we had to get we ended up selling our family home, and we had planned that, the start of that at least a year ago. And you can't, some things can't wait. And so we couldn't wait for that.
Mm.
And having to let that go has definitely been a process, like it's been more of like, you know, I need to get XYZ done by a certain date. And then after we did have to let it go, and, because again, this is where we grew up. This is the house that we lived in since we were children. There's a lot of baggage that goes with that, and being able to let that go is can be very difficult. And so being okay with that, being okay with who took it over, and everything associated with that can be tough. And so for me, that's is 2020. Like,
Yeah.
it isn't necessarily the isolation and coronavirus and things like that. I just bought this house like a year ago. This is my first home. It's old, but it's beautiful and well taken care of. There's a lot of stuff I don't need to worry about. But like, I thought that this first year was going to be all about the house, and it wasn't. It was all about putting my childhood to rest. And so I had to be okay with that. There was definitely a lot of action going on for me. Like, wow, like a lot of movement. Um, and I had to work to co-create with spirit to get through a lot of it. Like, this is a lot of spiritual work, a lot of, you can't always rely on your family for these kinds of things, because they're processing it in a different manner as well. And so you just have to let your family process it how it's being processed. And sometimes it's just a situation where you process it in your way and they process it in their way. And so for me, that, like, this was like, I really leaned on my spiritual growth and aspect, and like, the things that I do on a spiritual level to get through that. Um, knowing that in the end, the property is not mine anymore and
Mm,
it will never be mine again.
mm,
And I have to be okay with that. And I have to let go and just be like, you know, what they do with the property is what they do with the property.
right.
So,
And I love that. I love how you did this poll, and I could see all the ways that it could relate to me. And, you clearly have all the ways it could relate to you. And so I'm hoping whoever is watching, that you can see how it relates to you. And this is why I'm excited about our class. So maybe Veronica, give a little explanation of, if they didn't, I'm sure you saw already, but like the clarity and the things that can come to people when they get their own oracle card reading. And if they decide to take our class where you do the oracle card reading and then I guide them through an art process, what can people really get out of this process?
so sometimes when you get a reading, and I've done this for myself, you're just like, what the heck? Like, that doesn't even make sense to me. I don't want to hear that. Sometimes it's, I don't want to hear that, right?
Mm,
No, that, I mean, I've gotten cards where I'm like, no. And the benefit of pulling cards on a daily basis is that you can realize that when those no's come up. But from the class that we do, we have had that experience where some people are like, well, I don't really get what that means. And then you'll guide them through the artistic process, which is really kind of, one of the things that you could do with this is journaling, which I mean, I don't do because I've done this enough that I don't need to do that. But the artistic aspect of it just gives it a whole new dimension. So you don't have to write. Like if you don't feel comfortable writing, you can draw, you can paint, you can do all these different kinds of things. Whatever your creative medium is, it gives you the ability to kind of like explore and express what that card is. And then as you go through the 3 card process, like what does the first card mean? What does the second card mean? What does the third card mean? And then what is the overall thing? Like, I mean, it's the process itself just opens up the ability to kind of get what these cards are for you.
yeah, I love it. Love it. I'm so excited. Well, I think for this session, don't hang up. We're going to end this here. I hope this was really helpful for everyone. We look forward to doing more polls for you, or having Veronica do more polls for you, and more information about the class will be available. Thanks so much, Veronica. All right, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. It was awesome.